So today we are playing Giren's Greed, specifically the newest game in the series, which is called New Giren's Greed. This is a game where we oversee the one-year war scenario from the original Gundam series. That's true for the entire series. This one has a few more scenarios, but the main one is still the one-year war. You play as the two main scenarios where you play as either Gihren Zavi on the Zeon side, or you play as General Revel on the Federation side. And the basic goal is to defeat the other side, whether through a full-out defeat or through getting them to surrender. And there's a certain amount of non-linearity in there. There's a storyline that we follow, but we can follow different branches. There's a whole lot of options of how we actually play, like how we construct our armies and what characters we build on. So there's a lot of complexity here. What I'm kind of hoping is that we'll all be able to sort of segment that, and you don't have to focus on learn everything. You just focus on something that's interesting to you, and maybe make some picks and leave the rest to everyone else, and hopefully we'll all be able to get through that together. In case you're wondering why the sound's off, just because this song's probably copyrighted. It's playing with the Soldiers of Sorrow, which is a classic Gundam theme. Hopefully you should be hearing sound now. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, this is the newest game. It was originally released on the PSP. I'm playing it on an emulator just because it's easier to set up than streaming directly from my PlayStation Vita. If we go into new game here, we'll see we have a few scenarios. These two are the main ones. This one has a few other scenarios which you play like lower ranking people, and which makes things a little less complicated, but it's kind of it's less complicated by ways of giving you fewer options, which is something we're probably going to ignore. There's also this Char's counterattack scenario, which is based off of a movie sequel. These are all also, I think except for this one, yeah. These all also kind of like reduced. So we're going to just be going with this scenario here, the one where we play as General Revel. And I'm thinking, I don't know if anyone else has a preference, but I'm thinking just because this is a pretty complex game and I'm not sure how hard we're all going to find it, I'm thinking we should go with easy. I feel like it's a fairly reasonable difficulty in this game one way or the other. Does anyone have a like strong aversion to playing this game on easy? Or should I just go ahead? Okay. I'm assuming nobody has a preference, so we'll go ahead with this. This is, we're kind of going to skip this menu. This is more for if you beat the game before. You can switch in some characters with different optional units, I believe. This version is not the one I played the most, it's just the one that I feel is going to make for the best stream. And so I'm admittedly a little unfamiliar on some things, but this I think is kind of unessential, so we're just going to skip it for now. So this is where the story begins. We are in a Universal Century, the year 0079, January 3rd. And the space colony Zeon, Side 3 declares themselves Zeon, and declares war against the Earth Federation. Which begins, they declare the 1-year war, where they begin to fight against the Earth. They have these gigantic robots called Mobile Suits, which they use to score some early victories. Listing the casualty count, this is a very grim scenario at this point. So Gihren takes a space colony, loads with bombs, and tries to drop it onto the Earth Federation base in South America, a place called Gihren. And the Earth Federation is able to deflect it in the atmosphere. And this is the Battle of Loom, which is the early decisive battle in the scenario. General Revel, the leader of the Earth Federation's army, ends up getting captured. So at this point in the battle, the Federation's morale is low. They're considering surrender, but during this meeting, the negotiations, turns out General Revel gets rescued. And he ends up declaring that from having seen the Side 3's side as a prisoner, he's seen that Gihren has exhausted their resources to get this far. So he believes that they can defeat, they still have, if they have the willpower, they can stave off Gihen's invasion. And this is the point we start. After Gihen's colony draw. So right now I believe they're discussing the effectiveness of the Zaku Mobile Suit, the giant robot that Gihren has used to gain an early advantage. And so they're planning an idea called the V Project, which they are going to use to create their own imitation of Gihen's mobile suits, maybe even leapfrog them in ability. This guy, Tenrei, is the guy who's speaking to us to propose the mobile suit plans. And here's where our gameplay actually begins. So that was a little bit more abbreviated than I thought it was. Basically what happened was we start at the lowest point for us in this conflict. So Gihren has pushed us back. They've taken a lot of ground. They're technologically advanced at this point. We've managed to just get away with signing a treaty called the Antarctic Treaty that is going to be relevant here, which has some terms of how we go about this fight. but we're still behind, and we have to catch up. That's where we are. Now, we got the first gameplay element, which is they show us plans. So we'll discuss this a little bit later. But basically, this whole game is one of the unique things. It's in sort of an arm race scenario. You keep on getting new units, basically, similarly to how you would in any other strategy game, but here they just keep on coming. The old units get replaced with the new ones, so we have to almost constantly create new ones and sort of decide what's a worthwhile investment to keep our army evolving. And here we have a description. This is a atmospheric capsule. So this is developing the machine for fighting in the atmosphere. It has a high-efficiency rocket launcher equipped, so it's expected to have some decent fighting capability. Here, they found that mobile suits are weak against attacks from the air. So because of that, here's a proposal to fight against enemy mobile suits using a flying heavy bomber. And that's our option. We don't have to make those. That's something that we're going to have to choose later. But to get us started, let's just take a look at the map, see what our game is going to consist of. So, here, this is our main base, here in South America. And this blue is us. All this blue connections, that's areas that we've taken to start off with. So we have, here's South America, and then if you go up here to North America, you see this is all red. This is the enemy that we have to fight. This is Gihren. And we actually don't, we'll have to go through all these areas because this is kind of how the game is plotted, but our main target is actually out here in outer space. So if we go from Earth, we go this way, and we find the moon. And we go even further, and here is a place called Zoom City. It's Gihen's headquarters. And so our end goal is presumably to take this. It's not guaranteed to play out that way, but that's kind of how we're seeing this. And the way this game works, when we're just looking at the map here, is we have a few of these locations that you see there's a ring around them. These are the key areas, and these are just way more valuable than anywhere else. So let's see Kilimanjaro here. This one is actually not... Oh, yeah, it's pretty valuable. So, without even having to know what these numbers mean, you can just see here. In the top right, you see one number is 160, the other is 520. These are both income. We have two different kinds of income. Now we go here to the next city. This is Kinshasa, and the income is 1542. So here's 3 digits, here's 2 digits. So our entire game is around these areas, and so let's take a look at the situation that we're dealing with on this map. So here we're in South America. This is our headquarters. If we go up, we have 2 places to fight up here. We have California, and then New York. And that's New York with an A. Up here, there's nothing too important. We go over to Europe. We find we have a key location in Belfast. And then over here, if we go to the east, we have the enemy occupied area in Odessa. South Africa, we again have Kilimanjaro. Right now the enemy has all of Africa. If we go here, we have a little bit of area in India, this is Madras. But if we go around there, the whole area is enemy controlled. And here we have Beijing. So that's the other key area on Earth. Oh, actually I forgot here. We also have this place called Torrington in Australia, which again, if you go north, we end up in Xi'an controlled territory. And even if in the ocean, we go over here, and they have Hawaii is the last key location on Earth. So you don't need to memorize all of this, I think, but basically the importance is going to be because these are key locations, this is going to define how our battle goes. If we're looking at Jaburo, for example, we're going to be building our units from here, we're going to be advancing from here. So how do we move? We can go across this ocean and attack Africa. We can go north and we can attack North America. We can go west and attack Hawaii. It's a little bit more complicated than that because there's some restriction that we have to go through, but those are kind of going to define the battle line because the enemy's going to be doing the same thing. If we're going to defend, we're going to be defending from Hawaii, we're going to be defending from North America, we're going to be defending from Kilimanjaro, unless we, say, send something over to tie that up. That's kind of how this game is defined. Here, it's more of a straight line when we go up into space. So here's the Earth. And these are all the places that we connect to the land. So here, if we go from Jaburo here, we can send something up to space, and it's going to land here. And similarly, if we put something here, we can go and break it down here to South America. And so that's how these maps are connected. You can send things through these major locations up here. These major locations have a whole lot of actions according to them, so that's the entire game is going to be defined by this. If you go here, to this side, there's a whole lot of blue. And this is our one location in space that we have right now, called Luna 2. It's an artificial, I think it's a meteor that got brought over here to be mined. And if you go to the other side, you see there's red basically as soon as you push back the Earth. There's a little bit of gray because this is a neutral place. This is these are non-involved in the war, so we're not supposed to fight them. We can, but it's not something we're supposed to do. There are trading power. But if you go to the left here, we have one key enemy location called Solomon. And if you go down here to the moon, we have another location called Grenada, as well as a neutral place. Up here we have Al-Baku, and then here's the final destination that we have to fight, the Zoom City. So again, it's not important that you memorize all this stuff. I realize this is a lot of information, but maybe if there's any part of the map that interests you, you can also try to consider, okay, how am I going to operate from there? Okay, so the way that we move stuff around in this game, we can create units. Let's say, if I go here, there's actually a bunch of units that are located in Jaburo. We have this plane. This is a carrier plane. It has a bunch of smaller units inside of it right now. And we can send it over to this map. Send it up from this map and move it around, and they can, if there's any enemies pop up, they can fight here on the world map all at once. moving around on the map, I think I'll handle myself because that's just a whole lot of work. But right now, we're just getting acquainted with what the situation is that we're dealing with. By the way, feel free to ask any questions because this is here for you to play, not me. So, if you're just curious about something, or if I didn't explain something that well, feel free to ask. I'm here to help you try to play this. But here's the main menu that we're going to be working with. So this is just kind of our general battle menu, where we make all our decisions. If we go here, we can see a list of all the stuff that basically all the key stuff there is in the game. This is us, this is the enemy. You can see there's a bunch of blanks there. We're going to get into that because we actually don't get information on the enemy for free, but we do get information on us. So, most of this you might have an idea of what it is already. You just don't know what the numbers are representing. So we talked about how there's two different kinds of income. You can see on the top right, when I close this menu, is the 200,000, 1,600,000. 200,000, 160,000. And the first one is money, second one is resources. That's your cash. That's what you use to basically do any action in this game. Some require money, some require resources, or some combination of the two. Basically, if you run out of those, you can't do anything. But then, if you go in here to this menu, let's just take a look at this for now. So you see on the top left, there's one that's 3754, and then under that there's 4951. Those are in the, I think, a little bit more on the orange side. Is the words beside it. So that's our income. And if we compare that to the enemy, you see they have a whole lot more. They have 10,800 or 8,000. So that's where we're coming up from behind. Is basically the key takeaway. To the right, in the light green, we have 521. So they again have the advantage. So that's the area we occupy. 21 is how many cities we have in general, or I think bases might be the more accurate term. So here we have Rio de Janeiro, which isn't, there's no ring around us. This isn't a key location, but we do get a certain amount of income out of it. That's the 42, the 49. And so that's when we go back to this menu. 21 is how many of those we have around both of these maps here. Then the 5 are our key locations. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all we have right now. And then we have a few more things under that. So the easier one to understand is on the right, the darker green. You can see the number 120 with a big bar, and then a bunch of smaller bars below it with numbers like 22, 32, 68. So this is just how big our army is, and the breakdown of what they're made out of. So 32 over there is tanks, 68 is planes, 6 is our spaceships, 0 is, we have the 0 MS, and that's the robots basically. 0 MA, which are like they're mostly space things. They're more like a lot of them are kind of like fish shaped, but they're expensive, powerful units in general. And then 22, that last number, is actually our battleships, which in this case are space battleships. They're usually carriers, or they're very slow, powerful units. In our case, we usually have the slow, powerful units to start with. And do we have any information on our enemy right now? Right now, we don't know how big our enemy's armies are. To the left, we have, you see a bunch of levels. Those are technology levels. Basically, we spend on those, and they end up giving us more plans of units that we can sign off on. And it also increases the income we get. If the international opinion is high, then it increases or rather, if the international opinion is low, it increases the morale of enemy troops. If it's high, we also get more income, but to trade. And we don't have to go into all of this right now, but we have a list of here's the different units that we have in our army. So we actually have a whole lot of things all over the place. And we also have different characters, which this is a little bit backwards from if you play like strategy or RPGs and such, where normally you would probably expect that, you know, the characters are the most important thing, the characters are the things that move, and then you have a weapon that they can use. This game is the other way around, where you don't need the characters, they're just something that you add to the unit to power them up. And we have a bunch of stats here. I'm worried that I'm giving too much detail at this point, but let's go ahead anyway. So, since we're looking at the characters, let's focus on that. Let's go with us. So this is us right here. That's actually the guy we are playing as. So, we have a few things to see here. So the top right, we have rank, and that's kind of how far his stat boosts he gives can project. This guy is the general, so he actually sends it over a whole area and boosts a whole bunch of people. You can see on the top left, there's a level 7, and that's just your standard, like, RPG type leveling. You fight a lot, you level up. And then if you go down, you see 65, 61 there, those numbers that are kind of orange. Basically, those are the numbers that affect you commanding other people. So it's not just him boosting the units it's him boosting his allies around him. And that's only really valuable for these high-ranking people who are projecting commands all over the place. The first one, I think, is more like accuracy, evasion. The first one is accuracy, the second one's evasion, something like that. I honestly have to double check. Below that, you see these 4 stats in yellow: 43, 27, 38, 37. These are your actual, like, directly boosting stats. So that's, the first one is long range fire, like gunfire, then melee, then defense, then agility, which is dodging, which I think is probably pretty self-explanatory. That's just when you battle, you get those boosts. You can see at the bottom, there's MS, MA, and then a bunch of other things. So this is the same thing we saw here in this information window on the bottom right. So this is just different classes of units. Different characters are good at different classes of units. So in this case, his S is under tank, and it's under battleship. If you need to know this, like, in terms of gameplay, like you're thinking, okay, I want someone who's good at a tank to pilot this tank, then you can let me know and I'll find one. That's not a huge deal. That's why I'm here. But the one other thing that I can say here is that on the bottom right, there's see a whole bunch of characters there that are written. Those are special skills which characters learn by leveling up. I'm honestly not too familiar with them. I think that's only in newer versions. I don't think they're explained directly through this menu, so we'll just probably have to just take them on faith that they're all good things right now. Then we have this menu, which is, these are the units that we already have built. Or, not have built, but these are the types of units that we've completed plans for that we can make at any time. So these are the things that we start off with, and as the game progresses, we're going to get more of these, and some of these are going to get out of date, and we're probably not going to use them anymore. But let's take a look. So the Federation's thing is that we actually haven't invented giant robots yet. So that's the tricky thing about our campaign. We have a bunch of things that are a lot more specialized, and we need to figure out how we're going to use these to beat the enemy. So here we have a tank, and we have a bunch of stats here too. Again, this is, I realize this is a lot of information, so the idea isn't to take this all in. It's just if you have something that's interesting to you, you can maybe grab some and then try to apply that later. But for this, the most important thing I would say is, do you see that like disc-shaped thing over there on the right lower part of the window? So that is the terrain wheels. That's what this unit can operate in. If you see blue, it means that's where the unit can move. If you see red, that's where the unit can attack. And purple is both. And these are all listing different kinds of terrain. The easy one to know is the one at the very bottom, which is space. So if we go here, out in space here, this is actually all one big terrain according to this game. So if a unit is good at fighting here, it's also good fighting out here, or here, or here. It's all the same. And so if we look at our tank here, we see there's no capacity for space at all. So this isn't a space tank, this is an Earth tank. All the stuff around, those are different locations that you find on Earth. So the easy ones are the bottom left, it's water. If you can go down here, this is our submarine. So the submarine, you can see, it can fight in water, it can move in water, it can't, aside from that, it can maybe fight some other areas, but it's not great anywhere except for land. And most units, if you keep looking at that bottom right part of the wheel there, we don't have a whole lot of stuff that's good in water. It's just this submarine here. And so that's going to be a weakness for us. The other one that's kind of interesting is the bottom right, which is the sky. So units that are in the sky, obviously they work a little bit differently. They're not affected by whatever terrain's above them or below them. It just counts as being in the sky. So here we have this plane, and this is an anti-airplane. You can see it moves in the sky, it attacks the sky, it doesn't do anything else. As opposed to this plane. This is one that can fight in space. Let's go with this plane, which moves in the sky, but it can actually attack all those ones up there. Those are all ground things. So the top is normal ground, the top left is desert, top right is forest, the left is cold, so that's if we have like a tundra or a snowy mountain. The right is just normal mountains. But this is a bomber, so it's good at fighting things on the ground. It actually can't fight in the... yeah, well, it can fight in the air, but not very well. And that's kind of the big takeaway. The bottom you can see a list of weapons, so you can see name, the damage, which is the actual damage times the amount of times it shoots, the hit, the range. This I think you probably understand. More range, you can hit things from farther away, and we don't have too many things that are long range. Here we have one that goes up to 2. Here's our battleship. Where's our good one? Gihren goes up to 4. So having a little bit of range is pretty good in this game. Not a whole lot of things have huge, massive range. And you can see different units can have multiple weapons. So when this one gets in a fight, it's not just using the one cannon. It's got a cannon, it's got a missile, it's got a few other beam guns, but they're also all at different ranges. So this one's most powerful weapons are at ranges 2 and 3. Because you see the first gun, which does 22 times 8, that's a big number. Range 2 to 4. The second one, the missiles, also a pretty big number, 22 times 3, 1 to 3. So we're kind of, that's something we're probably going to want units that have good range and good damage. Aside from that, the other stats we have here are so in the top left, that red bar with the percentage in it, that is how it's called a limit. It's how well this unit can be improved by having a pilot in it. So in this case, the units can be, I think it's increased to 120% stability. You can see this plane goes up to 130, the submarine goes up to 140. These ones that have like commanders actually can get improved quite a lot, like this battleship 140, this battleship 150. But basically, the idea is that we might, if we have a very good character who has very good skills, you probably want to put it in a good unit, so that way he would get more benefit out of it. He or she would get more benefit out of it. And if we put them in some like weak disposable thing, it's going to improve it, but probably not as much. If we have a really good guy versus like a decent character, they're probably going to get boosted about the same, just because there's only so good you can do with that particular unit. Going down, we have a bunch of features here. So we have the two that are in orange are sensor and I actually am forgetting what the second one is. I probably have to check that out. Then the stats below, the 35, 7, 6, 8, 85, 5. So these are probably things that you can understand pretty easily in motion. So that's, the 35 is just your health, it's endurance. If that runs out, your unit's destroyed. 7 is agility, that's dodge rate. 6 is movement, so that's how many spaces your unit can move in a turn. This is where we look at the that wheel on the bottom there. So when the movement is at, the blue line is at half, that means it has restricted movement in that terrain, so it can't use that full 6 on mountains, this tank. But if it's all the way, this tank's good in deserts. So in deserts, it can still use the full 6. Then the last two, which are a little particular to this game, are fuel and fuel consumption. So basically, if this thing does an action, whether it moves or it fights, it uses some fuel. If it runs out of fuel, it can't move anymore. So that's just kind of how we need to be a little bit aware of fuel when we're moving on in this game. I'll get into that a bit later, I think. And then this list is just the different locations that we talked about. So this is that's Alice Spring. That suits Kichi. Sorry, my geography is not the best. Side 7, Santiago. These might be space. Jaburo, Derry, Torrington, Latar. We don't need to go through all these, but basically they're mostly real life locations, and then there's some made up locations, mostly in space. But that's kind of the major information that we need to keep track of in this game. And from there we have a bunch of options that we can interact with. So here's just troops. What do we do with our units? We talked about how we have characters and units. So I can take this plane here. If I want, I can add a new character to it. So if this is a bomber, and since it's a plane, but we can try, say, adding this guy, this Dick Allen, and he's got an S in aircraft, so he's level 2, so he's not that strong, but he's going to improve the abilities of this plane if we do. There. And so that's we can do in that menu. We can load stuff. You can see how this is kind of stacked. This is a carrier plane, and then these are just different bombers and fighters that are stacked into this. So that's useful if this carrier has better movement. Also, I think that the units heal when they're on the carrier, so that's why we want to be concerned about this. We can simplify some of this unit moving stuff by selecting a AI when it's on the field. I don't think we can do that here, but oh, this is to remove someone. Yeah, so that's the that's basically all we can do from this particular menu. Here is the first sort of interesting gameplay thing we can do. So here are all our big bases, and our big bases are where we build stuff. So whether we go through this menu, or we can just go here, we can produce a tank. And you can see here, conveniently, some of the stuff is in English. So we have, here's money is how much it costs of that first cash value, 200,000. Materials, how much it costs of the second one, 250. Turn is how long it takes for us to actually make the thing. And then limit is how many we can make of that particular one. That's kind of a quirk of this game where usually if we have something that's really good, it doesn't let you make a whole lot of them. So let's say these battleships. These are the strongest battleships you can make. We have 5, we can only make up to 15. But then if we go to these bombers here, these are all about fighting in numbers, so we can make up to 80 of them. And we can also take the units, move them out from that location. So this is how we actually got a fight started. We move stuff around. We can scrap things for money. So this would give us 650 resources if we were to scrap this carrier here. We can invest money in this. If I go into this this area, Jagro, you can actually see all our units are actually hanging around in here. We can see them in this smaller map. And here we have a bunch of different defensive facilities. These beam guns and such. And these are all just like built into the location. These aren't our units to move around. These are just defensive features. And we can ignore that. If we want to make places safe, we can just invest 4,800 resources there, and it increases our defensive level. And then this is just a convenient thing where we can send this, if we want to send this from here in South America to Belfast, we can do that here. And so that's all the things that we can do in this menu here. Yeah. Let me check this. Yeah, that's all you can do. So that's kind of all there is to know about units at this point. And here's the development part. This is something that we're going to be checking every turn. So we have these three different development scores, actually 4. And the way it works is that when our score increases, so does also the plans that we get. So if you recall, when the turn started, we saw this. This is a heavy bomber that we could build. We haven't actually chosen to build it yet. If you see here, it says money 1,000, and then turns 2. That's us giving that the green light, and then it has to actually be developed. Once it's developed, then it's ours. We can make as many of them as we wish, provided we spend the appropriate money and resources. But before we can do that, we have to go through R&D. And in order to get one of these planes, one is we might have to build other units first, but we also have to get a requisite level. So we want to keep investing in these levels to get our tech high and give us better unit options. The way this is classified is we have the first 3 are unit types, basically. The first one is basic tech, so that's anything that doesn't fall into the other 2, basically. So that's your planes, that's your tanks, that's your space battleships, all the conventional things fall in here. Then MS is giant robots. MA are like the space fish fighting things. Generally very strong things. We don't really have a whole lot of this. The last one is actually enemy technology. So that's how much we research on the enemy. And different units require different amounts of these levels, so it might seem intuitive, like, oh, I want good giant robots, let me just pump all my money into MS research. And that'll work, you'll get more units that way, but you might miss out on some units which have 2 requirements. Maybe they require this foundation type bomb. So this is just kind of a guessing game. You just, whatever feels good to you, you want to invest. Right now we can only invest in basic technology, but that's just kind of a quirk. We'll go into that in a second. Another thing you can do, which is kind of unusual for this game, I don't think this is all that necessary, but we can actually tweak some of these units. So let's say we have this battleship here, and we want to make it so it has more armor. We can do that. We just invest a little. 142. And then from there, whenever we build it, it's going to have better armor. It's going to get a little worse in another place. In this case, it's going to have less evasion. And here we can increase its power. We can just make it cheaper at the expense of it just getting worse in all places. But that's something we can do. So again, I don't think this is that necessary. This isn't something that was in previous games. But if you're thinking like, oh, I like this unit, but it's a little bit off, I think I would like it better if this part of it was a little better. You can do that. You can fix that. Although it's not that simple. And let's go back here. This is the last thing. So here's where we choose to invest in a unit. Gives us a little cost that will pull out for us, and the time limit. And we can actually, if that time limit is too long for us, we can double the amount that we want to put in, and that's going to come out in half the time, but again at the cost of double the money. But that's another option that we have if we really like that thing and we want to have it right now. After we develop the unit, right now it's grayed out and it just has a vague description, but after we actually get to see what the unit is, and we'll get the name and some more details once it's developed. So these are all the things that we already have. And the final thing here is the espionage menu. So the espionage menu is the way this works is that down here is investment. So you see that bar at the top where it says 60 out of 100? That increases a little bit every turn. We can invest some money in it, 1,000 funds, and that's going to add to the meter. And then that meter, we can use that to spend in different areas, spend on different actions that we can use our intelligence agency to do. But it might also, if you go down here, as we go down this list, these ones are pretty safe and pretty cheap. These ones are expensive and also very visible. So if you see that score, these score grades up here, the green one that says C, that's our information level. So if you recall this menu, which had all the details about our army, you can go over here and you see the stuff that's got lines through it. That's the reason for that is actually that we just start off with bad information. We have level C information. If we want to spend some of our information points up there into our information level, then we'll get informed about that and we can use that information and maybe it'll help our tactics. That's up to you. There's also a few other things you can do here though. So this spends to get some enemy technology. And so that's when we talked about here how we could improve this level. That enemy technology level, the ones that's a little bit separate at the bottom, it's displayed in a different color. It's because it's not, you don't get it from here, from the development menu, you get it from the information menu. And basically that's just another technology level. You use that to build different units than you could otherwise. This one lets us sabotage an enemy location. So these are all the enemy bases. And if we pick that, we can actually lower their defensive level. We can ruin some of their defensive structures, like these things that we looked at. These little laser cannons and missile cannons and all that. We can ruin those. Just send the espionage agency to do that. That's a little bit more expensive. That's a little bit more costly. And then this one, this last one, the most expensive one, is we can actually do a backroom deal to get an enemy weapon. So this is, if we like, so the units that we have are not the same that the enemy has, and if we like the units that the enemy has, we can actually get them, but it's not that easy to just produce them normally. So this is one way that we can do it. We can spend a bunch of espionage points and we will get an enemy unit that we can use. But it's pretty expensive to do, so this is not going to be the main way that you supply your army. It's just going to be, it's probably something that you can kind of do for fun. Maybe if you put like a good, if you get a good unit and you put a good pilot in it, that's something you can play around with. And we actually only have one more menu here. And so this is the special menu, and so the special menu has a list of other actions that we can do that basically don't fit in here. There used to be a politics menu in other games that also gets rolled in here as well. So these do. This includes some sort of regular actions that you just might not want to use all the time, and also includes some actions that are, say, plot-based or otherwise like one-time only things, something you use to advance a story. So here we have the V project, and we discussed at the beginning of the game how we don't have giant robots yet. That's the quirk of playing Federation campaign. So we actually gotta put in this plan and spend some cash to get that in action. So if we put this in right after we do, we can then start investing in mobile suits and mobile armors and raise that technology level. We'll also start getting the plans for the RX number units, like the Gundam, and a few other things are going to start happening once we select that. This one is to do a speech, which is something we can do at basically any time. That just improves the morale of all the units around the world. I kind of glossed over morale. Morale is basically, your units get tired if they keep fighting, but if their morale is high, then it reduces the ability of tiredness to take effect. So they'll still be fighting at their fullest even if they're tired. This one, and actually this one too, I believe. Yeah. So these are levies. So basically, if you go back here, not look at that bar at the bottom. That's the two gray options that have the yellow bars beside them. The first bar That's our own national support, and the second one is the international support. We can exchange that. We can basically raise taxes, get more money, or get some resources. Oh. Get some resources, but it will make us unpopular because nobody likes taxes. And so that's something we can do at any time with no cost associated with it, aside from the loss of support. Here, we can instead invest money, raise our popular support, so that they'll give us more income over time. And it will prevent riots and stuff like that, which is apparently in Canada. I haven't seen that happen in this version too much. Then, just like we can invest in our own country, we can go here and invest in our international image, which again improves trade relations, improves income long term. And then these last two are just to trade. See how we have the two currencies? We have one money, and then we have resources. What happens if we have a bunch of money but we don't have resources we need? Or vice versa. We can actually just exchange them every so often. I don't think it's that efficient. Yeah, you can see we get 27,000 money this way, but we lose 30,000 resources. So it's not ideal, but it's an option that's on the table if we just don't have enough of one thing to perform the actions that we want to do. So that was a whole lot of work, but we did just review all the options in the game. Everyone who's in here, you're free to type in chat. Let me just check on Switch directly on my phone to make sure, because I'm not seeing any chats coming in, and I'm not sure if that's just the way my setup is working. Okay, for some reason when I look at my phone it shows that the broadcast has ended, which shouldn't be right. Let me actually check my OBS to make sure that there isn't an issue going on there. Okay, it's showing that I'm still streaming, so I don't know what that's about. But okay, so this is the point where I'm leaving things up to you. Assuming that we have the input. So the first decision I guess we should make is, are we going to go through with the project this turn, or are we going to leave it? So if you're in chat, you can let me know. I'm just going to activate it or ignore it accordingly. This is the project to start actually working on the giant boss in this Gundam game. I think this is plot relevant. I think we actually do have to do this. It's giving us the option to not do it, so it's on the table. Okay. Not seeing any responses in chat yet, so I'm not sure if it's possible to continue with this game at this point, or at least the way that we're trying to play it. So I think we'll just stop it from there. I'm just going to check to see if my my stream is working correctly. At the same time, I'm probably going to, I might be posting this to my YouTube channel to see if I can recruit more people to play this along with us. But at any rate, if you did watch along so far, I hope you did enjoy this explanation. And I also hope that you'll join us next time and we'll see if we can get this, all play through this game together. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you.